Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit entitled People and it's by user Uncle Barnacle. I, 26 female, kicked my soon-to-be ex-friend, 25 female, out of my house. As the title says, last week I kicked what I thought was a good friend out of my house because I could no longer handle her antics. Just want to write it here just to distress and deal with the grief of losing a friend. Kendall, 25 female, and I met at university in 2016. We studied different majors but were from the same department. So we shared many classes together and bonded over our passion for gaming and memes. Upon graduation, Kendall moved back to her hometown due to COVID and found a job there. We kept in touch online through Instagram. About 3 years later, Kendall told me she found a better paying job in the city I live in, so she's planning to move out from her parents' place. When I asked her about her plans on her accommodations, she replied with, "That's the thing, I was going to ask you if you have an extra bedroom that I could move into." For context, I have inherited an apartment from my late grandfather, which is a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath near the city center, last January, and I currently live alone there since it is closer to my workplace and it has all the convenience of public transport. After some thinking, I thought that there's no harm in living with Kendall since I considered us as close friends. We discussed the terms and of course the rent. A week later, Kendall moved into my apartment. It was great at first. My home felt more lively than usual and the thought of going home to a close friend warmed my heart and gave me a sense of security. Things were okay for a while and then crap goes downhill super quick. Kendall started complaining about many things at home, about her work, her savings, and how she feels homesick. At first, I was very accommodating, thinking maybe she just needs time to get used to the city life. I offered as much help as I can, even to the point of if she's low on money, I don't mind voiding a month's rent if it meant I could help her to achieve financial stability. I taught her how I save money, how I live off of my then low salary with several commitments like my car, my dog, and a student loan. I grew up where my parents expected me to be independent, so I told her things I'd do when I'm low on cash, how to get freelance jobs, etc. But she always seems to have excuses for every suggestion I have. Finding a freelance job is too hard, or she couldn't let go of her premium junk food that she isn't willing to cook or meal prep, and I eventually decided to leave it as it is. And after 2 months of living together, I realized Kendall started treating me as some kind of competition. She would constantly ask me things like how much money I make a month, how many job hopping did that take. Anything that she thinks she's better than me, she'll definitely pop that question. She boasts about how she is loyal to her crappy paying company and how I would never be able to move up the corporate ladder as she called me an industry frog. Ribbit. She once snooped my savings balance and asked how the F did I have so much saved up with my commitments, etc. Mind you, she didn't have a lot of commitments since her parents paid off her student loans and fully paid off a brand new car for her, and maybe I should stop collecting rent from her. I got mad and told her if she isn't happy living with me, maybe she should move out. Cue the crocodile tears as she said that it was a joke, I didn't have to take her seriously. She begged for forgiveness and promised to never snoop my personal items and details again. I let it go once, but she kept bringing things up like, well, you have the cash and a credit card. Every time I told her I'd rather stay home because I no longer have the budget to go out and have fun. Comments like these became more frequent when I got a new job 6 months ago. On top of everything, she doesn't clean up after herself, tried to flirt with my boyfriend, and at times parked in my parking space when our initial agreement was that she has to find her own parking space if she's moving in with her own car because my apartment only has 1 parking lot per unit. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I caught her kicking my dog in his abdomen when I got home from work. I yelled at her and rushed to check my dog. Luckily, he was fine, but I still rushed him to the vet for safety measures. I got home and she sneered that it was just a dog and as a friend, I shouldn't treat her like that. I asked why she'd kick my dog and she didn't answer me. She shrugged and tried to escape into her room. At this point, it was already about a year since Kendall moved in with me. I lost my cool and told her off, bringing up her problems and how I tried to be nice and accommodating. Then I told her I'm giving her a week to move out, and that from then on, I'd rather we keep our relationship casual or we don't ever talk at all. Kendall cried and begged me not to kick her out, but soon it turned into her screaming back at me, calling me a bad friend because apparently, in her words, I didn't tell her off on how badly she was behaving. Like, what the F? There was a lot of back and forth, which I don't remember what I said, but I remember eventually calling her an entitled brat. She cried again, saying it wasn't called for, and stormed off to her room. The next day, I was bombarded with texts from other uni friends, some calling me selfish and others sympathizing with me. Apparently, Kendall posted our argument on Facebook and Instagram, painting me to be the bad guy. I was upset at first, but I decided that after Kendall moved out, we would no longer be friends, as well as those who took her side of the story and condemned me. Last week, Kendall left, and I have changed the locks on my apartment. I curled up in bed and cried myself out, probably from the sadness of losing a friend, or maybe I am finally letting out all the frustrations. I am definitely still grieving about the loss of a friend, as I've had many good times with Kendall. For now, I want to focus on myself and hopefully I eventually get over this. Well, it'll be good riddance to Kendall. She clearly wasn't a good friend. Personally, I have very little to no patience for people who just want to complain and actually have an excuse for every single suggestion they get to solve any kind of problems. After like the second or third suggestion they shut down with excuses, I usually just disconnect and not pay attention anymore. And after that, to every complaint I get from these people, I just go like, that's sad, and move on. Now, when Kendall would have probably met my foot is after she kicked my dog. So again, well done, OP. I know you weren't asking for advice or judgment, but I still wanted to give my piece. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? Let me know in the comment section, and let's check out what the community had to say. Glenn Marshall says, per your post, I think that Kendall is a user rather than an actual friend. You will need time to heal. I recommend that you seek short-term psychological counseling to help and maybe find out how to more effectively set and enforce personal boundaries. And OP responds, I'm planning to look into those as well, if I could afford them. But for the time being, I'll try to find comfort in spending time with my doggo, my boyfriend, and drowning in my hobbies. Double smiley face. Cooltown Gumby says, Kendall sucks. Who kicks a dog? A-holes, that's who. Stand up for yourself. Go no contact with her. Love your best life. And Dopey responds, I was so scared something would have happened to him the way I saw how Kendall kicked my dog. Melting smiley face. Anonymous Rooster says, if I were you, I'd be telling everyone she was hurting your dog. That would probably swing some opinions real quick. And Opie responds, I did, but some still called me an a-hole for kicking a poor girl who has traveled far from her hometown out in a big city.
She took the midnight train going anywhere.
I got off fine, but why can't she? The whole teasing that I have more money than Kendall got worse when I told her I was given an offer by an MNC as a senior designer and I disclosed her the offered salary, as we always did, like I know how much she earns too, which was about 50% more than hers. That was dumb on my part. Yep. I now understand why my parents told me to never disclose or discuss salaries the moment I started working. Alright, well the community agrees that Kendall sucks and it's a good thing that OP kicked her out. But the story doesn't end there since OP has given us 2 more updates. So let's move on with the next one to see what happened. Hello everyone, I'm here with some updates about me and my doggo as well as my now ex-friend Kendall. Let's start off with the update about myself. I've been doing well and surprisingly, as some of you mentioned previously, I had gotten over the loss of this friendship rather quickly. My boyfriend planned a trip to a pet-friendly beachfront hotel, and I spent a few days with just my boyfriend and doggo. We played in the seawater, and I watched my dog play in the sand. Overall, had a great time, and we even had grilled fish together while watching the sunset. Doggo had a deboned fish fillet. I am also grateful for my friends who stood by me regarding this issue. They checked in on me from time to time and sent me funny content to watch during my free time. Some of them even told me their stories about Kendall and their discontent with her behavior, which I will list some below. Friend A. Kendall ridiculed Friend A several times because Friend A earned less than Kendall, despite he has worked a year longer than Kendall. Friend B. Kendall trashed talk Friend B's company via Instagram just because Kendall flunked her interview with said company with flying colors. Friend C. Kendall always demanded Friend C to be her personal driver during our college days. If Friend C refused, Kendall would guilt trip her. And Friend D. Kendall ruined Friend D's assignment by pranking him. She actually formatted his laptop when the project was due in 2 weeks. When confronted, all Kendall said was, "Oopsies." There are many more, but these are the more icky ones I've heard from my friends. And now, with that out of the way, here is today's main course. After I kicked Kendall out of my house, one of my uni friends, let's call her Anne, stood by Kendall's version of events and has allowed Kendall to move in with her instead. Anne called me out of the blue this afternoon, and her first question to me was, "How on earth did you manage to put up with Kendall for a year? She's driving me crazy." Long story short, whatever Kendall did when she was living with me, she now does it to Anne. Snooping Anne's personal items, leaving dirty laundry around, generally being a prick in the butt. Anne told me she's planning to force Kendall out of her house too. I didn't comment much since Anne were among those who called me a cruel person, but now it has come back to bite her. But wait, that's not all. According to Anne, Kendall lost her job because she tried to ask for a 100% increment and assaulted her supervisor when the increment request was turned down 2 weeks ago. She was immediately escorted out of the office building by security, and she just texted me 20 minutes ago saying she needed a favor from me, that she wants a job at my workplace. I replied stating there isn't any vacancy. To be honest, even if there is, I wouldn't hire her, LMAO. So yeah, I hope this is the last time I will hear from Kendall, and I'll only update if somehow something interesting happened that involves Kendall. Laughing emoji. Well, we all know that something interesting must have happened if we have another update, so let's move on with that and see what happened next. At this point, I wonder if I should change the title to The Kendall Chronicles, laughing emoji. Hello everyone, it's been about 2 months since I kicked my now ex-friend Kendall out of my home. For those who have read my story before, just wanna let you guys know that Doggo and I are well fed and happy. If you guys remember last time, Anne, one of my friends who sided with Kendall, told me about all the horrible things that have happened while having Kendall as a roommate. Oh boy, Anne had to call the cops to evict Kendall. I happened to meet Anne at a pet-friendly cafe to enjoy a good book yesterday while my doggo gets to enjoy playing at the doggy daycare-ish kinda area. I did wonder if it was intentional on her side since all my friends know I love this cafe in particular. Anne greeted me and asked if she could sit and have a chat with me. We started out with some small talk, but the moment she brought up about her evicting Kendall, I just sat there and listened. I gave Anne a smile and prodded her lightly with a comment I borrowed from the previous comment on Reddit. "Oh, so you're gonna really kick her out then?" I remember someone last told me it was cruel to kick out a friend out of their homes. Anne stuttered for a while before saying how I should have made a post to counter-clarify Kendall's social media claims about me. I simply told her neither have I the energy to do so, nor I have the need to, which in turn landed us in some brief awkward silence before I asked what she needed from me. Anne told me she wanted someone to vent to about Kendall and didn't know who to turn to, and told me she filed a police report against Kendall for theft and destruction of property, and ultimately and needed the assistance of police officers to evict Kendall from her home. She is also in the midst of filing a restraining order, as she mentioned Kendall looked completely psycho at that moment. Unlike me, Anne lives in landed property, so I guess she'd be a lot more worried about Kendall coming back to find her. Kendall apparently stole Anne's debit card and spent a whopping $2,000 in total. Anne only found out about the missing money when she found her debit card missing from her wallet. She checked the bank statements only to find that $2,000 went to clothes, expensive meals, and clubbing activities. At this point, one might ask, how did Anne know it was Kendall that spent all that money? Well, the answer presented itself when Kendall came home screaming at Anne for terminating her debit card. According to Anne, Kendall was shouting every insult in the book while flailing her arms around with Anne's debit card in hand, which Kendall proceeded with slamming the card on the table before storming off into her room. That was the first time Anne felt afraid of another person, much less a friend. Since then, Kendall made Anne's life hell on earth. Kendall would leech off Anne's groceries, judge her choices of snacks, body shame Anne, etc. Kendall also attempted to seduce Anne's boyfriend. She once kissed Anne's boyfriend, let's call him Jason, on the cheek and giggled before running for her room during movie night. In another instance, she groped Jason's manhood right in front of Anne, but later claimed that she was drunk and thought what she touched was a couch pillow. The worst thing that Kendall did was throwing herself onto Jason and saying she has a fever, and later guided Jason's hand to feel her breast, in which Anne walked in at the same time Jason's hand was under Kendall's shirt. These incidents has since caused a strain between the three, and Jason felt awkward to the point where he told Anne he would stop visiting her house unless Kendall moves out. Anne cried for a bit when she reached this part. Anne told Kendall to move out and gave her a week to do so. Kendall then cried and ran out of the house, only to come back later in the evening to lock herself in her room. Anne presumed that Kendall is packing her stuff, and she decided to ignore Kendall for the time being. The next morning, Anne woke up to the sound of some grunts and broken ceramics. She rushed out to her yard to see an unhinged Kendall swinging a rod against everything she could hit: a tree, flower pots, even the grass on the ground. This led to Anne immediately lock her doors and called the police, fearing for her own safety. The police arrived and handled the situation swiftly, and they took Kendall away. There was still a lot of screaming and shouting. Anne said she's not sure if Kendall is being locked up or has anyone who would have posted bail for her. While I guess it was kind of nice sipping tea about Kendall, but at how Anne described Kendall as behaving, I wonder if she'd actually needed professional help. I can't help but feel sad for her condition, despite we have gone no contact for 2 months. I'm sorry, OP, I don't agree with you on that last sentence. I do not feel bad for Kendall, not after what she did to Anne's boyfriend. Hopefully Anne does file charges for everything that Kendall did. She stole from Anne, she sexually assaulted her boyfriend, and she broke her property. If Kendall needs help, she should get it behind bars. And hopefully mommy and daddy don't come to her rescue to bail her out, so she faces consequences for her actions. In any case, thanks for sharing the chronicles, OP. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge, and it's by user Sathara88. Husband gives epic petty gift after ongoing boomer neighbor issues. I was told this story would be appreciated here. Smiley face. We moved into a rental house in a neighborhood with our 3 kids, and the day after we moved in, our boomer neighbor, let's call him Gene, knocked on our door after my husband left for work. When I answered the door, he skipped all pleasantries and introductions to gruffly informed me that the light switch in my family room closet needed to be turned off immediately, and that it was my duty to ensure that it was kept off. Obviously puzzled by this demand, I asked what the switch was for. Gene said that the switch was for an exterior patio light that would shine into his bedroom at night and keep him awake, which was not acceptable. I figured the kids had turned it on while exploring the new house, so I assured him I'd turn it off. Without another word, he turned on a seal and went home. Unfortunately, my rude Gene encounters persisted during the 18 months we lived there. He would wait for my husband to leave, then come and complain and gripe at me about something we had done wrong. Our dogs would loudly sniff at the fence if he was outside. Our sprinkler was spraying too high. Our trash can was too close to his, etc., etc. Our other neighbors adored us and our kids, so I really don't think we were the problem. I finally stopped answering the door, so he started leaving notes and even went as far as to find me on Facebook and send me a message there. Just the worst. Husband tried to talk to him and tell him to leave me alone, but he'd deny any wrongdoing. Reasoning with him was pointless, so we made the decision to just ignore him the best we could. We were finally moving to a new place out of town, and my husband went back to do the final walk through the house. When he left for the final time, he called me and let me know he had a gift for me. The last thing he did before locking the door and leaving that house for good? Turning on the patio switch light in the closet, knowing full well the landlord wouldn't be there for final cleaning for 4 days. Crying, laughing, smiley face. Best gift ever. I still laugh when I think about it. Nicely done, OP's husband. The coward Gene now won't be able to sleep for 4 days. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.